We've now come to our Friday feature Movie Spotlight, where we discuss and review some of the latest releases at the Korean box office and online. This week we only have one critic with us, but that just means we get a double dose of his charms. Jason Bechervaise is with us in the studio. Jason, hello, it's good to see you.
Hello, a double dose of me.
Yes,
How
indeed.
How good is that?
Okay, so a classic combo of one local and one international release to look at this week. Let's start with the more high-profile international release. It is the British spy drama called Operation Mincemeat, or in Korean, Mincemeat 작전. It is set during the Second World War and it stars Colin Firth in the lead role. So Jason, what can you tell us about this film?
Yeah, it's based on Ben Macintyre's 2010 novel of the same name. It's an account of a British deception operation in 1943. So during World War II, when members of British intelligence took a corpse belonging to a tramp and put it in the ocean off the coast of Spain with the intention that the Germans would get hold of the documents in his possession. Now, this would then convince the Nazis, they hope, that the British and its allies would launch an offensive in Greece as opposed to Sicily. Now, this is very important because Allied troops needed to take Sicily if they were to turn the tide of the war, but it was heavily defended by German troops, so essentially getting the Germans to go to Greece.
Right, and this is based on real events, isn't it?
It's based on real events. It was an operation that was authorised by Churchill and involved a very small unit of very skilled intelligence officers led by the pair Ewan Montagu and Charles Cholamondri. And in the film, they're played by Colin Firth and Matthew MacFadyen, respectively. Other figures include Ian Fleming, the writer of James Bond, of course, while in the film, two female operatives acted by Kelly Macdonald and Penelope Macdonald are centrist to this rather ingenious, or some would argue ridiculous, plan of deception. Also stars the ever fantastic Jason Isaacs as Admiral John Godfrey, who advised Churchill. Now, M, for all those Bond fans out there, was actually based on Godfrey. I didn't know that until I watched this film. And it's directed by John Madden, who made Shakespeare in Love, Miss Sloane, and written by Michelle Ashford.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a bit of a sleuthing going on there.
Yeah.
Quite a few connections to James Bond as well, as you mentioned.
Absolutely.
But I understand this is more of a drama as opposed to an action thriller as such. Something more akin to Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, the film by Thomas Alfredson, based on John le Carré's 1974 novel.
Yeah, it's a spy drama. I mean, it's very much focused, on dialogue and the interactions and the relationships between the members in the team, particularly kind of four central members. The two guys I was talking about, and also the two female operatives as well. And you know what? I actually love this film. I think it's terrific. It's so well acted, and production designs are fantastic too. I just love a good, espionage drama. I like thrillers as well, but I think dramas for me it's so much kind of depends on the dialogue and the interaction between the characters rather than the set pieces. And I think that here it just works really well. I mean, you mentioned Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, which was it was written. Well, it's based on a novel by John le Carré. Fantastic novel, and he was also an operative as well, wasn't he? And yeah, there's this focus on literature in the film as well. At one point, one of the operatives talks about being surrounded by writers, and these references almost to James Bond. And it was a film that I really, really enjoyed, and it wasn't an event that I knew anything about really, and also kind of. If you're looking at current day events as well, given what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, and there's talk in the film of the so-called free world, and I think it resonates today as well.
So, as you said, less on action pieces, but still a fun watch.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of humour in there. It's not too serious. So very well written by Michelle Ashford.
The film is available on Netflix in North America, but it was released here in theatres. Is it a film worth then seeing on the big screen?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's beautifully shot, so I wouldn't want to watch this on Netflix. Although I'd like to see it again, and I've seen it on the big screen, so I would happily see it on my home TV now. But certainly the first kind of time I watched this film, I'm glad I saw it on a big screen at my local multiplex. I mean, like I said earlier, in terms of the production values, the cinematography, the music's fantastic too. It's got a terrific cast, and who's not in a good mood for an espionage drama or thriller, and this has all the right ingredients, and highly recommended.
Do you think it'll work for a Korean audience as well? Korean audiences do have a tendency to like British films. So we've seen huge successes with films like Kingman, Dunkirk, working title rom-coms. They all do well. Yeah,
it tends to be certain films. I mean, Dunkirk is, of course, Christopher Nolan, and you've got the working title rom-coms, which I think romanticize British life, and then you've got Kingsman, which is this really wacky film that actually works really well. I'm talking about the first one especially. This film, I mean, there's just so much focus on the dialogue, and especially in the second half, I mean, it does get a little bit convoluted. You've got these spies working in various different countries and for various different governments as well. And so it does get a little bit confusing. That being said, though, like I said earlier, recommended, and I hope some audiences here go and watch it on the big screen. But I don't see it being this big hit like some of the other films you mentioned.
Okay, still 2 big thumbs up. Fantastic.
Yeah, two thumbs up. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it so much, and good film.
Let's move on to our Korean release now, which is the family drama Piggy Back. Abuba in Korean. It stars Jung Joon-ho. It was released with this month being Family Month, 가정의 달, in mind. Can you tell us about this film? Is it a movie suitable for all ages then?
Well, it'd like to be. It would like to be suitable for all ages, but unfortunately, I don't think it's really going to attract many. I'll get onto that. It's a bit of a stinker of a film. I was like, shall I be diplomatic? But I think there are times when you need to be brutally honest, and I think right. Okay. In terms of how this film has been made, it's very poorly produced. Anyway, it's directed by Choi Jong-hak. He's made a couple of films, including Think Like Dogs in 2020. The big name actor here is Jung Joon-ho. He was in some of the Marry and the Mafia films, also My Boss, My Teacher. He plays this captain of this boat. Essentially, he's the only person. He's the sole person kind of keeping it going, and it's called Piggy Back Ferry. It's based in Busan. Now, he's very protective of his family. But they all got their own kind of things that they want to do. He's got his younger brother who suddenly announces his engagement to a much younger woman, and he gets suspicious, and rightly so. There are these Chinese Koreans involved, and then his very young boy, his son, falls in love, and then one day his ship is also in danger of being taken away. And that's all you need to know, really. I mean, the film is almost 2 hours, like an hour too long, in my opinion. It's a real stretch to fit that 110 minutes or so narrative.
Can you explain a bit more then? Why is it such a stinker?
Where do I start? First of all, in terms of who it's targeted at, I mean, the jokes in the film, it's the kind of film I almost take my son to go and see. I mean, the acting is so dramatic, it's so kind of over the top,
right?
And so some of the slapstick humor I think could work for a very young age group. And then there might be those who are much older that might enjoy some of the melodrama. And melodrama has had a long tradition in Korean cinema. We see that in some big budget films, Along with the Gods or Miracle in Cell No. 7. You even see melodrama in Bong Joon-ho's films. But I mean, these days it tends to be in heavy doses. You tend to see it in kind of daytime TV, but here it's just so over the top. So I'm not quite sure who it's targeted at. And then in terms of the production values, they're just so bad. The lighting is patchy. The editing is all over the place, and just where they place the camera as well. I mean, there's a shot earlier on in the film that's set on a rooftop, and then the camera's kind of spinning around. It feels rather nauseating, and it's not really that well put together. And then it just suddenly just hones in on a cloud, and I'm like, okay, interesting. And then later on, there's just some real trouble, I think, in terms of some of the framing. And so, it's just very, very sloppy. And there's music in almost every scene, to drive, up the emotion. So it's heavily reliant on music, which I think underscores the many problems that it has. And it's just, it's very daft. And sometimes you could be in the mood for this kind of film. Maybe there are certain audiences that would enjoy this film, but I would guess there are not that many. And maybe I'm being too unkind, and I apologize. But this film, I honestly, the production values associated with Korean cinema are so high. I've seen student films that have been better produced than this.
Wow, so 2 big thumbs down for this one, really. Perhaps a bit of a low-key local release as well this week, especially because there is a major Korean release coming out next week, right? The Outlaws sequel, the Roundup,
Yeah, so they had their press screen earlier on, earlier on this week and in Seoul, and the reaction so far seems pretty positive. The reservations are also picking up. Yeah, this is a big test for the Korean film industry because for months it's been pretty much dormant, and cinemas are just... Yeah, they've been open, but it's been very much kind of Hollywood or Marvel fare that's really attracting the crowds. And now Korean films need to do the same, and can they? We'll have to wait and see. I am optimistic. It is a big test, and we've got a number of films that are coming out over the next few weeks, which hopefully will lure back the crowds. So we've got Kim Ha-min's Handsam, we've got Choi Dong-hun's Alien, and we've got the Cannes films as well, Park Chan-wook's Decision to Leave, and Koreeda's Broker. So watch this space. Hopefully I will certainly be here, one would hope, to talk about some of these films. And
are we going to get a review of the Roundup next week?
Yes. I'll watch it next week. I'm looking forward to catching it. Okay, so we've got that to look forward to. We'll leave it there for this week, though. Jason, thank you for coming in today, doing a double shift, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. See you then. Bye-bye.